Hello, and welcome to another gathering of friends where we are going to dive deep into some myofunctional therapy reality checks. I'm Carice. I am your myo best friend. I am really excited to be here with you, and I want to just welcome you all with a nice warm welcome. If you can see me, if you can hear me, please just throw something in the chat. That way I know that I'm not just talking out into the void. I am going to be sharing with you today a lot. If you're newer, it's going to be a little bit enlightening. If you've been in Myo for a little while, you might recognize some of the patterns that I'm going to talk about today. This lecture on the reality check for neuromyofunctional therapists, I have to give a shout out to Sarah Davis. It was her suggestion, and I think it's spot on as far as topics. Feel free to reach out to me at any point in time with topics. I'm always excited to chat about Myo. So I'm here every single week. If you want to stay on top of all of the lectures, subscribe if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel already. That way you get the notifications first and foremost, and you never miss a lecture. And you always have easier access to all of the recordings because there's now 50 different lectures that are up about myofunctional therapy and all things how to be exceptional at it. Please comment, please like, please share, whether you're on LinkedIn watching or on YouTube. The more exposure, the better we enhance the field. And that is my ultimate goal, for us to be better together. Hey, Sherry. Alrighty, let's dive on in. There is a process to this myofunctional therapy thing, and it seems like it is a repetitive process that I hear about all the time because I'm talking to a lot of you guys. Whether it be in like private chats that you guys are reaching out to me and we're scheduling something on my calendar link and we're just chatting about how Myo's going for you, or you're confused about how to get it in and you've been hearing horror stories, or you've just been somewhere in the loop. This pattern in these images tends to be what happens and how Myo typically works. So there's this cycle where you get super excited and you think, oh my gosh, like Myo is everything. Myo has the answer to so many problems. How did I not know about this? How have I not heard about this? This is absolutely phenomenal. I've got to get into this thing, or I've got to get my patients to understand this. Like, I have to dive deeper. Like, this is you falling into the rabbit hole. Okay. Once you're in the rabbit hole, you start to see things just a little bit different. It's from just a smidge of a different perspective, where you start to get a little pushback and you're questioning a little bit like what you've been taught. Like, wait, is this not the answer to everything? Because as you start to get some new cases, it's just not what you thought it was all going to be. It's now shifting your perspective, it's challenging everything you thought you knew. And then you start to realize that it's not the answer for everything, and that there are limitations to this thing, and there's so much more you weren't exposed to that you feel like you need to know and you're responsible for. So it's all that confusion right there in the middle between those two pictures. But if you're really good and if you're persistent and you push through, you make it to that last picture of confidence, okay? Because you're going to understand and realize that there are limitations. You're going to become a lot more reasonable about what your expectations are, and you're going to be able to get better outcomes. And so, what I want to take you through today is exactly how it goes through in the process. You may find yourself like, oh my gosh, I'm in a certain aspect of one of these pictures. Like, I am in one of these modes right now when it comes to Myo. Don't worry. We're going to figure out how you get through it. I'm going to walk you through it, and we're going to be good. We're going to be good as gold. Okay. So let's start right at the beginning. You learn about myofunctional therapy, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's the answer to every single thing. Like ADHD, it's got a solution for obstructive sleep apnea, it's got a solution for sleep disordered breathing, it's got a solution for orthodontics, tongue thrust habits, anxiety, depression, breathing, perio, speech, tongue tie, caries, digestion, all the things. All the things. It could just do everything. There's like no limits. I'm surprised there's not people speaking as to what myofunctional therapy can do for people who have surgeries, who have strokes, who have cancer, like the rehabilitative side of myofunctional therapy. Because once you start getting into a little bit of that, then you're like, oh my gosh, like this really is the golden goose of healthcare, where we can do and we can help literally anyone with almost anything. There's some truth to this, but it's not everything that you think. And I could see why, when you hear that myofunctional therapy can be helpful in all of these things, that becomes very exciting. I've been there. If you've heard my story about my children and about how I got into myofunctional therapy, that's a really good live stream to watch too. I think that went a little over an hour a few months ago. And so that's available on this channel. But if you hear my story, I talk about my children, and for my children to be genetically similar, they manifested airway centered disorders very, very differently. My son, he has congenitally missing teeth. He had no tongue tie, but he had all the ADHD signs, symptoms, emotional regulatory disorders, inability to be attentive, hyperactivity, all that stuff. My daughter had every sleep issue under the sun, very, very blatant sleep disorders, whether it was the bedwetting, the night terrors, the sleepwalking, the tossing and turning, the falling out of bed. Well, you name it, we went through it, and it was every single night for 10 years of her life, right? The other two had a lot of upper respiratory things. Like, I've never seen so many ear infections, throat infections, congestion, sinus pressure. No end in sight to the respiratory issues that would happen with those two. And these children are all very genetically similar, and it manifested so differently. They're on the same diet, they're in the same household, breathing the same air, getting the same nurture, with the same sort of genetic makeup and sequence, and every body presented differently. It's overwhelming to think that there's so many things, like even just in my own house, there's just like so many things that can be resolved, that can be managed with myofunctional therapy, that can be helped with myofunctional therapy. It's very exciting, super overwhelming, and you kind of jump in 10 toes down, very, very deep into the water of myofunctional therapy, and it becomes all encompassing. For a while, it's all you see. There are some courses where they say you get new myo eyes. Sometimes I say that too, where you get new myo eyes, and clinically, your perspective just kind of changes. You're seeing it everywhere. You can't unsee it. So now it's even more overwhelming, because where you may have seen it in friends, family, loved ones, colleagues, now you're seeing it everywhere. You're going to the supermarket, you're seeing it. You're in the airport, you're seeing it. You're driving, you're seeing it. You're seeing it clinically. You're seeing it everywhere. So it becomes very overwhelming. Okay. I get it. If you're here and you're new and you're like, what is happening? Why is this everywhere? Why is nobody helping? Like, isn't this the answer to everything? Look, I want you to stop, breathe, reassess. Okay. Just try to shift your perspective a little bit and understand what lens you're looking at myo through, and if it's fair to you. Can you even imagine the burden one would have to hold to be the answer to absolutely everything? Your primary care physician doesn't even hold that much responsibility. You go to your primary care physician, and they are not going to be the person who's like, yep, 100%, I know exactly what this is, and here's how we're going to manage it. They know what they know, and they refer out when there's things that are outside of their wheelhouse. It's okay to do that too with Mayo. You are not the answer to everything, okay? You're not even, Mayo isn't even the reason why all things happen. When we look at health and what health is really a conglomeration of a bunch of different factors and how all of that impacts our bodies. So, whether it's the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, the behaviors that we do, and the function upon which we exhibit in our body, the work that we do, the workload that we do, the stress that we have, our age, our gender, our genes, all of that. It all plays a role. So don't think that by just looking at an individual behavior or an oral myofunctional disorder, that you're going to be the end all be all for all things. Take some of that pressure off yourself. What a burden that would be to hold. And so don't hold it. Don't hold it. There is a greater picture that we're going to get into as we keep going. But for those of you who like analogies and want to talk about similarities and similar things, let's go into fluoride, okay? So, fluoride. Big topic. There are people who are very pro fluoride, people who are very against fluoride, and I don't know why my image got so like blurred, but I think everybody who's in dentistry who can kind of understand the pro con argument against fluoride can understand where I'm going here. Fluoride, when it comes to caries, is like one aspect of how you can do preventative care. Then there are people who will be like, but what about hydroxyapatite? And are there different ways that we can manage it outside of fluoride? Absolutely. Fluoride is one aspect of preventative care. If you look at Canberra, who I was talking to someone recently about, and I haven't used in, I don't know, since I was in dental school, since I was in hygiene school. Canberra, when you look at Canberra, it really is going to dive deep into fluoride in the water, fluoridation, the use of fluoride topically, and where they are there for risk of caries. We're not looking at all the other options of what could be going on. We have a particular lens upon which we are focused when we are looking. Same thing goes with Myo. Like, confirmation bias is a very real thing. If you're very pro fluoride, you're going to find, and your brain will easily access for you, all the instances in which fluoride was a positive in a patient's journey, in your own personal journey, in a loved one's journey. And you're going to have all the research behind you and the studies, and you're going to have Canberra, and you're going to say, okay, well, these are the things. But if you're on the con side of it, you're going to have an entirely different perspective where there are a wealth of things that contribute to caries, and you want to look at all those other things. Well, what's going on with their breathing and their mouth breathing and their diet and the pH level of their saliva, and what is the composition of what's in their saliva? What's their flora like? Can we do salivary testing? How are we addressing all of the other aspects? Fluoride is not the end all be all. Understand with that same level of argument, pro con, that there's pro cons to Myo too. Myo is not your end all be all. You are not an end all be all for someone. You don't have to put that burden and responsibility on yourself. It is not the answer to everything. It is a component. Absolutely, it plays a big part in placing a puzzle piece on something that really without it you're lacking. You'll never finish the puzzle. It's a big gaping hole in a puzzle if you don't have myofunctional therapy, but you do all the other things as far as structural changes with orthodontics or appliances or surgical interventions. If you don't do the manual therapy, the body work, if you don't have the physician aspect of it, where they come at it with a different approach entirely, where they're managing the nutrients and the blood work and they're monitoring and really assessing from an entirely different perspective. You, as a functional provider, play one small role in a global system that is really going to address all of the many different factors that go into health. So, if you're there, what's the lens that you're looking for myofunctional therapy to fit into? And is it fair? Okay. Let's get into the next aspect. Pushback. You're excited. You've gotten into Myo. You maybe are a little bit beyond where you're now understanding what exactly this is, and you're excited about it, and you start talking to patients about it. And I remember being in my intro course for Myo, and I was thinking this through so hard. I'm doodling what I wanted my logo to be. I had already thought of the name, the Myo spot, and like all the different ways I can do that and kind of play around with it. And then I was like, once I start talking to people about it, oh, this is gonna be so great. Like they're gonna get it, and I'm gonna be saving so many people and helping so many lives and so forth. And so you get out of the course and immediately you're like ready, gung ho. Ooh, I've got to talk to people about this. Even if you're not ready to start seeing people, you are ready to talk about it. And you're like, oh, chomping at the bit. Okay. Well, now you're gonna get some pushback. And people are like, whoa, whoa, what is it that you're talking about? Maya, what? Like, what? I need what? I've been seeing you as maybe my hygienist for however much time, and you've never mentioned this before. You are my loved one. And so maybe I just don't want to listen to what you say. Aren't the people that we love the worst people to work with sometimes, where they just aren't listening to you, don't understand what you're saying, and look at you as like that same person that they've grown up with or that they've raised, and you just can't get through otherwise because they don't see you as the professional, the educated professional that you are. But you'll start to get that pushback at home. You'll start to get that pushback at work when you're talking about it. You'll start to get that pushback internally where you yourself will look in and be like, do I even know anything? Like what is this really all about? If people aren't jumping at it, is it me? Am I approaching this wrong? Am I the problem? And you'll start to reflect inwards and say, whoa, I don't know if I came about this right. I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I'm not conveying this right. Maybe I need more education. Maybe I don't really fully understand what it is I'm supposed to be doing. Perhaps. And everybody's looking at you like, I don't even know what this is. Why would I want to do this? I don't know what this is. I don't know why you're trying to talk to me about this and why you're pushing this on me. And if this is you, if you're here and you're in this stage, stop, breathe, and reassess. What exactly are you pitching when you're talking to people about Myo, and why? Are you pitching it because you're hoping to save them from an unknown? Because honestly, you don't know what it is that you're trying to save them from. We have no idea. Our crystal balls are super cloudy. We have no idea what exactly it is myofunctional therapy might help them with. And so you have to get really, really clear about what you're pitching and why you're pitching it. So just go back to the baseline of honesty, okay? In a world where people have access to literally all the information in the world, I don't need you to educate me on anything because I can quite literally have, with the tap of a few keys on a keyboard, access to all the information in the world. In a world full of all the information, in a world full of lies, deception, cheating, dishonesty, theft, nothing I crave, and in general, the public craves more than honesty. So don't go into those conversations with a bunch of nonsense. If you don't really know much, be honest about how you don't really know much. If you're pitching because, you need to get this program off the ground or you really need to get a sale, sometimes being honest about that is a lot more helpful than trying to just push, 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 push. Some people respect that a lot more and will actually help you out or can actually provide another way. But what I want you to think is to just shift your perspective on it. How would you have best received information about something you had no idea about? Just take a second and pause. Why did you get into Maya? Why did you resonate with learning more about this? What made you say, yes, I'm going to take the leap. I'm going to take a course. I'm going to understand what this is, and I'm going to start working with people. What was your pain point and your connection? Because if you're going to talk to others, it's really important that you connect what it was that resonated here. That way, when you speak, you can speak from here and you're more likely to connect with someone in that same area. Okay. When I talk about my children, a lot of people resonate with my story, and I love to share that story because nothing's more important to me than my children and my family. And so I think it's incredibly important that we connect on that peer to peer level. As a professional, I didn't know about this. My kid was on medication for a long time for ADHD that he didn't need to be on, that we went a year and a half medicating this kid every single day, different types of medication, pretty much like guinea pig. And I had my daughter every night going through all sorts of chaos at night in ways that I know she wasn't getting good sleep. Like I know she couldn't have possibly gotten good sleep. And we're just trucking along because pediatricians like, yeah, she won't be 15 and still doing that. We're just supposed to just, let it slide. She'll grow out of it. I've been there, the person who's aware that something's wrong and also very unaware that something's wrong. And I wish I knew sooner, because how it made me feel by the time I learned was that I was not a good, I was not a competent, and I was not a safe mother, is what that felt like. Is that these children have been calling out in ways that they can't explain, but just biologically calling out for help. And I entirely missed it. And even as a professional in this industry, missed it. And so it is me wanting to talk to you as another parent, as another individual, to say, I see something, so I'm going to say something because I wish somebody had said something to me. And it doesn't have to be that long of a talk, honestly, but it does have to be that honest of a talk, because that's what it is. I'm getting vulnerable. I'm getting deep. I'm digging into what it was for me. I didn't get into this because I'm like, oh man, there's a whole lot of money to be made here. I got into this because I was like, there's 4 children in my house that need my help. And once I help them, whoa, there are millions of children out there who need this. It goes way beyond what's in my home. And when I got to meet my kids for the first time, I knew there were so many other families who have not met their children, who are still seeking their children. And so that's why I want to talk to you about something that I found today as I was looking through and doing my evaluation or my assessment or my whatever. And when you have that kind of talk, who's pushing back on you? That pause was for a reason. Okay, you don't have to answer in the comments. You could answer in the comments, but who's pushing back on you? Not too many people. They're more likely to receive that. And it doesn't have to be that they jump right on it, but it has to be that they start to process it. Oh, she saw something. All right, I'm going to go look this up because this is a person who cares. This is a person who's been through something and is trying to help me to not go through the same thing. Okay. All right, I hear you. Have these conversations with yourself. Have these types of real, honest, raw, deep conversations about how you would have best received this information. Because I'm telling you, if somebody came to me, tried to tell me about my kids, it was not going to be a well received conversation unless they came in like a heartfelt way. Otherwise, like, stop trying to sell me something. We're already perceived in the dental industry as like trying to be sleazy and scammy and selling and like, oh, nobody likes the dentist. So why not get heartfelt? Why not start understanding what it is you're really selling? I'm selling an opportunity for somebody else to catch things sooner than I caught it in my own home. I am selling an opportunity for somebody to have a different feeling about themselves internally because I didn't feel good as a parent when I realized all this was going on. I'm selling an opportunity for somebody else to have a better outcome than I had. That's all I'm selling. I'm not selling Mayo. I'm not selling a result. I'm selling, look into this now because I wish I did. And if I didn't tell you, then I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. So at least you know. Practice these conversations. Really get deep. Do it in a mirror. Sound confident. Sound really, really sure of yourself as you're telling that, because if you don't feel it, trust me, they will know. You can't make it up. It has to be something that you really feel. And understand that you're the expert. You don't know, you're the expert of your own story, okay? You don't know absolutely everything there is to know in the world, but you know a lot about oral function. If you've taken an introductory course, even though I really don't believe in that concept, I believe you need a comprehensive course, not an intro course. And we'll get to that in a minute. But you're the expert in oral function. You know more about oral function than 0.5% of the rest of the globe. Stand tall in that truth. And don't be awkward. Have the conversation when you're supposed to. Don't have the conversation at like some oddball time when you are like in no way, shape, or form supposed to be having this conversation. Don't just have the conversation awkwardly. Okay. Most importantly, have resources ready. Where can they learn more? If my interest is piqued and I'm listening to you and I'm thinking it through, I need to know where I can get more information. It can be just from you. Sure. It can be like, oh, schedule a call with me. I'm happy to chat with you and we'll go through it. Sure. But again, we're in the information age. I'm probably going to go home and Google it. That's what we do. Okay. We find out about something and the first thing we do is Google it. And it's a verb. And so, what I think is really, really important is that you are a resource of resources. So, make sure that if you have a website you're sending them to, that there's a resource page with separate information. If you have some downloadable thing, if you have a blog, if you have a list of books, do you have certain research in a folder in a Dropbox link that you can have a QR code to? Like, how can they access more information that you know is credible information? Because they can go anywhere and they can find anything on the internet. And trust me, some of it is not good quality information. Okay. So educate in an appropriate way. You could even lead them to social media. Just make sure that, the accounts that they're trying to follow are the appropriate ones and that they're ready for this. Okay. Let me know if you're still with me in the chat, if I'm going overheads, if I'm like losing you here. All right. So we just got through pushback, that second phase where you've gotten through this. I could not stop laughing as as I was putting this together. Linkin Park was super big when I was younger, and I grew up on like MTV and TRL and like all that stuff. And this, I think, is just so very true. It starts with one thing. I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. It's like myofunctional therapy. As you're working with people, so you've gotten past this whole pushback phase. You've gotten somebody to finally accept. You start working in your first cases and you start realizing one thing. You don't even know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. You can't fix it. You can't fix it. You're like, what? What is happening? Why why am I stuck here on this case? Or why is this not doing what I thought it would do? I thought I was supposed to do this thing to get rid of tongue thrust, and here we are 5 weeks later and still tongue thrust, or they're telling me that their sleep has gotten worse, or their jaw pain is 10 times what it was before we started. I thought it was supposed to get better. So it's one little thing and it will throw you all off. And it might be one person, and then it might be two people, and then it might be three people. And suddenly you're like, I don't know. I don't know enough. I don't know enough. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm messing up. I am, not getting people the outcomes that I expected. I thought this was supposed to solve all the problems. This is not solving the problems. I am a disaster, an absolute disaster as a therapist. And I don't know why I thought I could do this. And this is not what I thought it was going to be. And then you have the people who are looking at you. And I thought that this picture was just so funny because I was hoping for disappointment. And this like really makes me feel disappointed. It makes me feel like they're so upset with me. But that's what you perceive in your mind is what's coming at you, right? They're really, really upset. You promised them an outcome and they're really upset. And if you were honest up until this point about being newer in Myo or whatever, that you're going to talk to a colleague and you'll try to figure this out and yada, 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 they're probably not disappointed. They're following the journey along with you. Like I said, your physician doesn't know everything. Your physician, a lot of times, will throw something at the wall and hope it sticks, and will really just, all right, try this specialist, try this medication, try this test, let's do this, let's do that. And it's just all putting a puzzle together. And so we're already accustomed to that. So don't think that you had to hold the weight of the world. And as a myofunctional therapist, you have to be responsible for understanding everything that's going on with them and their oral function. And that if they're not getting outcomes, it is 100% your fault. That's not the case. And they're not really that disappointed. Okay. This picture is much more dramatic than the feeling is, but I think it does speak to how you feel you're being perceived. Everybody is very let down and disappointed by your lack of ability to really address their problem whole. Okay. If you're here, stop, breathe, reassess. Understand your limits and those of OMT. Working in oral facial myofunctional therapy, oral facial myology, oral myofunctional therapy, just plain old myofunctional therapy, or whatever you're calling it today, has its limitations. It is not the end all be all for absolutely everything in the world. Okay. And you are not responsible, like I've said maybe 80 times already in this lecture, you are not responsible for solving all of the things. Okay. Like Ye said, you ain't got the answers, Sway. You don't have the answers to everything. Nobody ever expects you to. I think it's really important to have perspective. The other morning, my husband, he always turns on some sort of like ESPN Sports Center, like something's always on when he's got control of the remote. And I'm watching it, and like he can watch and understand all of the plays. And I get some of the plays. Like I used to watch Sports Center and really enjoy football and really spend time, and I would understand some of these plays and calls and flags. But I'm not there anymore. I am looking at it from a different lens of life, right? So if you ask him about sports or a play or a call or a flag or a down, he's got it. If you ask my dad about plumbing or a pipe or a system or a connection or how things in a certain particular way come together with engineering and water, he's on it. He's got it. If you ask me about breathing and sleep in Mayo, I've got it. But I don't know the answers to everything. My dad doesn't know the answers to everything. My husband doesn't know the answers to everything. Most people don't have the answers to everything. You have the answer to a wonderful window, specific window of your knowledge. And nobody even expects you to have all the answers to that particular bit of knowledge. There are always things where you'll need to go back and check and learn and refine and review. It's okay to not have the answers. And then we found out later that Sway did have the answers, but that's neither here nor there. Understand that crystal ball is not foggy when it comes to Myo can't fix everything. Myo is not the answer for all the things. It is one component that can address absolutely some of the issues, but really what myofunctional therapy's purpose is to serve is to be a conduit for proper oral resting posture. That is all, ladies and gentlemen. It's not super spectacular, wonderful, wave a magic wand and poof, life is better. It'll help, but it's not going to be the answer to everything. And it certainly won't be the answer to everything alone. It's always a part of an interdisciplinary approach. Okay. Why is interdisciplinary approach important? Because everybody comes at it from a very different angle. We all understand things in our own little windows of expertise. So, a cardiologist is going to get what's going on with their blood pressure or their heart rate variability so much better than you can understand it from your limited view, from my limited view as a myofunctional therapist, when we're looking at it in just one aspect with sleep. A cardiologist is going to be able to approach that whole cardiovascular system and what's going at it. And in their deep years of expertise in working on just that cardiovascular system, are going to have a better approach from their lens on the cardiovascular system. Can you help and support with myo, with function, with better breathing, with better oxygenation? Can you help and can you improve? Absolutely. But together is where the magic happens. You throw into this cardiovascular myo triangle, you throw in there a manual therapist, maybe you throw in there a dentist, and the dentist is going to do expansive orthodontics and is going to advance a mandible. And we're going to now have tension and strain addressed by the manual therapist. So we've got the cardiovascular system being worked on by its specialist, the respiratory system being worked on by a specialist, the myofunctional therapist. We have the structural foundation being worked on by its specialist. We have our soft tissue connective system worked on by its specialist, and all together for the help. You are not alone in having to be the sole position upon which someone stands to get relief. They should work with someone else, even if it's just one more someone else. But I like multidisciplinary, getting into all aspects. They might need a physical therapist. They might need an occupational therapist. They might need a speech language pathologist. They might need a behavioral therapist. They might need a psychologist. They might need a vision therapist. They might need a physician. They might need a specialist. They might need a wealth of people. They might need a whole team, but it ain't just you. So if you're not getting results, and you're finding that, oh man, this isn't the answer to everything, it's probably because you need to bring in some other approaches and perspectives. It's incredibly important to understand that you're not the only lens upon which some of these things can be addressed. Think of it as in weight loss. Goal I need for myself personally is to probably lose about 50 pounds. Okay. There are a number of ways I could do that. The most obvious way is a full comprehensive lifestyle approach, right? If I just work out every day, but I eat a bunch of junk and I don't really have any other movement and I keep my same stress level and I never check to see what's going on with my body and nutrients and how I'm metabolizing certain things, like, would all that working out just in and of itself alone help? Probably not for the full 50. I might lose 5 to 10 maybe just working out, and eating junk and whatever. If I was to just eat better, never work out, don't address stress, don't address what's going on as far as my body and metabolism and how I am adequately nourishing my body to see if this diet or whatever I'm doing is helpful, it's not going to help. If I just do Ozempic and I still eat like trash and I never work out and I just sit down in bed all day and I don't do anything. I mean, all of this stuff, it has to come together, right? We get that concept for literally anything else. Literally anything else. You mentioned cancer. We understand that that's a lot of different approaches that people will take for that, right? We get weight loss, a lot of different approaches that people will take for that. But we, for some reason, seem to hold ourselves in such a high regard that we feel like we have to be responsible for doing all the things for everybody because that's what we were taught myofunctional therapy should be able to do, fix all the things. Don't hold that. You're not responsible for that. That's not the way the human body works. That's not what the way that any sort of change happens in the human body. If you want psychological change, you have to make lifestyle changes. You have to make changes to your environment. You cannot keep doing the same thing and expect a different outcome. So, changing one thing isn't going to fix everything. So, just be aware that Myo is absolutely wonderful and fabulous and like a source of so much good and positivity in the world. But if I was you, I would always try to under promise what I can do with myofunctional therapy and over deliver. I like to above and beyond get expectations met. And so what my goal is always is to say that I'm going to be your help meet. I am going to meet you at the middle. You're going to commit to the program. I'm going to commit to helping you as far as I can. We're going to get proper oral resting posture, guaranteed. Guaranteed. We're going to establish a nasal hygiene routine. We're going to eliminate noxious oral habits. We're going to do all of these things. And you'll feel a little better. And if at the end they feel really better, and if at the end, they were able to resolve certain things with their sleep or digestion or breathing or anxiety or whatever, if all of that happens and I've never even pitched it as a possibility, wow, I have over delivered. Wow, I have exceeded expectations. And that's what your goals should be. Under promise, over deliver. Okay? So breathe. Breathe. Because the goal is to reach balance. That's what we want. I want you to feel confident in what you do. I want you to feel like, yes, I am that person. I am in this and I know what I'm doing. I'm helping people and I am a part of a fabulous team that is getting people to their best selves. I like to say that I help people function on full. There are a lot of people walking around that are functioning on 3/4 of a tank, whether it's energy, breathing, whatever. They're just not at 100%. And they go day in, day out on this same sort of journey. And I like to help people get to functioning on full. And so that's what we're going to do. That's what your ultimate goal should be. You're balanced in where we are. You're creating that balance in what we do. And you feel confident, you feel supported, you feel secure in you're getting results. You are capable. Okay. You deserve that confidence. Confidence comes from acceptance. Confidence is all about just accepting yourself, accepting your limitations, accepting the limitations of myofunctional therapy, accepting that it is not all the things. Okay. It can only do some of that stuff, but with a great team, you can go so far. So acceptance, absolutely. Fairness to yourself. You are not to be the person who is responsible for every single aspect of everybody that you come across that's healing. That's too big a burden to hold. Nobody else in the world holds that burden. Tony Robbins doesn't hold that burden. I don't know what burden that man holds, but it's not on you. Okay? in all fairness to you and your sanity, be aware. And just remaining open to the idea that there's so much to learn. I had a meeting with someone last week. And one of the things that they had said that really stood out to me was like, they wanted to know, how do I be great in myofunctional therapy? I want to be great. How do I show up great? I feel like I don't know enough to be great. And you know what? I don't know enough to be great. I don't think any of us will ever know enough to be great. But I can feel great because I always remain open to the opportunity that I can learn something new and I can help from there to then help up level my myofunctional therapy skills, up level my outcomes, approach a new provider, and get a new perspective and point of view. Remaining open is going to be your best shot at confidence. Being able to say, okay, I see the bigger picture here. There's other things I don't know, and I will learn them. One of the things I said during that meeting, and actually what I'll do is I'll leave my link here. That way, if anybody else wants to chat, feel free. Just schedule a time on my calendar. But one of the things I said there was, if you're worried that you don't have enough to invest in a bunch of different classes, you feel like you can't be great in Myo, which is such a lie. That is an incredible lie. Without investing in a bunch of different classes, don't worry. There's a lot that you can do by just learning through yourself. Every class that you see somebody offering, they learn that information somewhere. Where can you source that information? Start thinking about that. Start thinking from a greater perspective. You don't have to take a course always to learn stuff. We are in the information age. You can learn a lot of different things just from actually looking for the information yourself, by seeking who the experts might be in that information, by seeking where they're learning, what textbooks, what learning opportunities you have in your search history and search abilities to be able to find ways to become great, whatever you're trying to be great at, whether it's TMD or dental sleep medicine or whatever. Okay. Just remain open because you deserve that confidence. You should get that confidence. If you didn't get it in your first course, I'm not going to say you took the wrong course, but there are other courses. Okay. I think it's incredibly important that everybody remembers there's this parable and this story about blind men and just different perspectives. Because if you have a bunch of blind men and you put them at different aspects of an elephant, they're going to perceive different things. Like the man at the trunk is perceiving that there is a snake that he's touching. Oh, it's a snake. The person at the tusk is going to feel, oh, that's a spear. The person at the ears, as the ears bat, so, oh, that's a fan, because you're feeling the fanning of that. The person at the end is, oh, is this a rope at the tail? Is this a rope? Because it's really big, it's really long, and oh my gosh, this must be some type of rope. We're all coming at it from different perspectives. Just understand that you don't have the greater picture. Like it's impossible to. We can't all have the bigger picture. It's not realistic. Okay. And I want to end on a really nice note. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat right now. But I want to end on a really nice note that a lack of knowledge creates fear. Seeking knowledge creates courage. Be courageous. Be courageous, be confident, be secure, and know that knowledge is out there. You are capable of achieving it, and you don't have to be the answer or have the answer to all of the things. Okay. I am so happy that I got to chat with you today. I am so glad that it helped. Thank you, Sherry. I look forward to seeing you next week. Next week, we're going to talk about trauma. I'm so excited to talk about trauma because we're not talking about it enough as a collective. All right, guys, have a great one. Bye.